Hey team, Angus Strachan here, and welcome to the Film Slice Podcast. I'm here as always with my co-hosts, Kane Diggly Wiggly Cane Dogs, and Bro Diddly Doo Broadman, and welcome to isolation. We're still in isolation, still talking over the internet, but we're gonna give this a bloody red hot go. Week,
I quit. I'm out. I refuse to give this a red hot go.
Can we give it a cold blue go?
Yeah, give it a cold blue go, or I'll also accept a gooey green go. Do with that what you will. Yeah. Today we are reviewing A Quiet Place, as Cane Dogs aptly said in the last episode of the podcast. We'll do A Quiet Place in anticipation for A Quiet Place 2, which will come out maybe next year sometime. Who knows?
sometime in the future, maybe.
Sometime in the future, maybe. That's it. Sweet. So, would you... when did you see the movie? Let's start with that, because I guess
so
this
out of
is...
practice.
Yeah, we are a bit out of practice. Because this movie obviously was released quite a while ago, 2018, I think. So it's been a while. Did you see it at the cinemas, or have you just watched it then in a
Jordan,
panic?
start us off.
I watched it for the first time last night. I've heard
Excellent.
about it, but it's one of those films where it got really big when it came out, and everyone was like, you should watch it, you should watch it, you should watch it. And like everyone on earth, the more someone tells me to watch something, the less likely it is that I'm going to do that. But also, I didn't want to watch it because I had heard via reviews and podcasts and all sorts of stuff, when I realized that we weren't watching it, or when I hadn't watched it, I thought, I'll listen to the reviews and stuff. So I knew a lot about the film already, so I didn't really feel a need to watch it. So I watched it for the first time last night, and I think that all of that prelude that I just gave certainly affected my opinion on the film.
Fair enough. B-Man, when did you watch it? Did you get a movies to watch it, or have you
I did
just
not.
streamed
I watched it the very first week it came out on DVD and Blu-ray.
Nice one.
Because I missed it in the cinemas, but I was so pumped for it, and I was like so looking forward to it. I was like, you know what, I've got to watch it as soon as I can.
Keen to watch it.
Yeah. The week it came out, I was like, yep.
Yep, I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, B-Man. I didn't see it at the cinemas because it's not really my kind of thing. I'm not really a big thriller person, but a lot of my movie mates did watch it, and they said, "Yeah, you got to watch it." So I probably watched it like 3 or 4 months ago, probably late last year, and I actually really enjoyed it. It was good. Let's move on to our next segment. Watch or not? Would you recommend it? Or not?
If there wasn't a sequel coming out, and if you haven't watched it already, I'd say not watch it, because I think maybe it would have been very special in the cinema, but if there's not a sequel coming out, I wouldn't feel... If you haven't watched it yet, you probably don't want to. But with the sequel coming out, I guess watch.
Fair enough. B-Man?
First of all, when you ask a question, can you throw it to one of us? Because I was so ready to answer, and then John started answering it.
Sure.
I got so confused.
If you can make eye contact with one of us, Angus.
Yeah.
I'll just point my finger at you.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I think, definitely a watch. I think this film is awesome, and so watch it. And there's a second one coming out, and I hope that one's going to be just as awesome.
Nice one. Again, B-Man, you and me on this path together. I would actually definitely recommend watching this. I said before, I'm not a big thriller fan, and normally I wouldn't recommend thrillers just because that's not my cup of tea. But I actually did really enjoy, I guess, aspects of this film. I think it was really well done. So I'm going to say watch it, especially seeing as if you've got a Netflix account. It's free to watch. Like, you don't have to spend money, you don't have to go outside, you don't have to do anything. You can just chuck it on. It's a pretty low threshold to get past, and I think it's definitely well worth it.
And while it's a thriller, it's not as scary as a lot of people might think. You know, it's not like, oh, this is the scariest thing. It's like, no. There's a few frightening moments, but it's not some, scary, like, horror, like a thon that's just kind of annoying to watch.
I definitely agree. And I think that's probably maybe one of the reasons why I enjoyed it so much was it wasn't just kind of out to get you. It was there to tell a story about these characters, and there was actually some character development there, and there was a good story behind it. You're right. It wasn't just, you know, jump scare after jump scare, or
it's more about
just something to try and creep you out.
It's more about the atmosphere rather than just, you know, just straight up being scary.
Yeah, exactly. Not sure how this is going to go, but let's flop out our cinema dicks if anyone's got them.
My cinema dick is the one and only Angus Strachan, who didn't let us go and review this while it was in the cinemas. That's all I got.
That's fair. I'll cop that. That's my bad. Yeah, I'll gladly take that dick.
I miss you, man.
Cane Dogs.
I watched this with my girlfriend as like a movie night last night, all cuddled up in bed. And so, if I were to have a cinema dick, it'd have to be her. And so I'm not going to do one. Because I'd like to plead the fifth and remain innocent. No,
you're so in isolation together for the next foreseeable.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I won't broadcast any complaints. It was fantastic.
Not the movie, the company. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Super.
Okay. Something definitely happened, and Jordan's not telling us.
Exactly.
All right, I think that's about time. Let's head into spoilers. For people that haven't seen this movie, that's our recommendations. Go and watch it, or keep listening and get it spoiled for you. It's your choice. Choose wisely. Awesome. Let's get into the details, boys and girls. We're gonna do anything. You know what we're gonna do?
Did I get it right? Was I in time?
I don't actually have it all set up because I know there's going to be so much editing to do that I can't be bothered doing it live. So I'm going to specifically make sure that it's not in time with you. Ready, set, Mail. 3, 2, 1.
Mail.
Oh, what's Mail?
We were close.
We were close. Awesome. Yeah, it's time for what's in the mailbox. Any reviews from you boys? Feel free to jump in. I did chuck it up on the Films Like Pod Instagram account.
We've got one on Facebook.
We got 0 there. I did chuck it up on Facebook as well.
We do have one on Facebook.
We do.
Excellent.
Awesome. So we've got. You want to read that?
Oh, you can read it if you want.
Cool.
I've got it in front of me.
I also have it in front of me.
This is from Kirby Heinz, who says, I thought it was
really engaging, even though a lot of it was visual instead of dialogue. A new concept that was executed well.
I think that's
Thanks, Kirby.
Thanks for writing in twice. Weird.
Yeah. In synchronicity with yourself. Yeah, totally agree.
Hey, Angus, is there a way you can make Jordan's come in on, like, one ear and you come in on the other ear so people, like, hear it for, like...
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Yeah, totally agree. Instead of... She mentioned the dialogue there. I think you could probably fit the amount of spoken dialogue on to one page.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's bugger all dialogue, which I really liked. I was actually looking through some information about the film, and apparently the original script only had one line of spoken dialogue in the whole film, which I think like would have made it super interesting.
Well, it depends on what it was.
Well, yeah, if it's like, yep, hey, I'm Jimbo, going out to get some milk. That's it. Cool. That's what that's all our slicey slices thought of this week for A Quiet Place. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, all that jazz. Let's get into kind of what we thought about the film. Most positives to start off. Cane Dogs, you wanna tee us off?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think definitely a massive positive for this. I have 3 main ones. But I think the one I'm going to go with is the main actor who also directed. What's his name?
John Krasinski.
John Krasinski. He was awesome. It just made me want to watch a whole, like, another whole type of these films. Like, it's like a survivor, zombie, monstery kind of film. He did a great job. And I mainly know him as, like, a comedic actor.
Mm-hmm.
So he was awesome. It was compelling. He was believable. It was awesome.
Yeah, I don't actually know John Krasinski from that much. I haven't actually watched The Office, so mostly I know him from like the Reddit memes of like screen captures of him in The Office. But yeah, I totally agree. I think he absolutely nailed it. And also one of the only thing he's directed. He's only got I think 5 things he's directed under.
Is he directing the next one, the sequel?
He is slated to direct Quiet Place 2. Or awesome. Yeah, I assume they'd probably be in production or in post if it's already done. Yeah. If they were going to release it in 2020. But yeah, looking down at his kind of directorial things, he's actually directed a few of the episodes in The Office. So I'm assuming that's kind of probably where he got a taste for it and everything. So yeah, I think he did really well.
Yeah, he's great in The Office. He was great in Jack Ryan as well, and he's really great in this. He's a really good actor and good director. Kind of annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, hate it when someone's that good at everything. Jack Ryan, is that the Amazon?
Yeah. Based on the books by the same name by Tom Clancy. That's
right. Yeah, cool. B-Man, what was your standout for this film?
The sound design is the overachieving, like, incredible part of this film. It is amazing. Every little thing in this film would have had to have been, like, taken, like, have so much care with such little detail. All of the Foley that would have been done for this film of, like, people making, like, breathing sounds and, like,
that's all on YouTube.
And swallowing sounds, stuff like that, is insane to think about everything that they went through this film. And how they managed to make silence sound like silence, which is really hard, especially seeing though they would have to take out all the bird sounds, all of the animal sounds. They couldn't have had wind in the background and stuff like that. It would have been all done in post. And I think it is outstanding that the film is very, like, cohesive, and not even just cohesive, but, superbly, like, impressive.
Oh, 100%, definitely. I think, like, obviously titled A Quiet Place, sound design is going to be a massive part of the film. A massive part of, like, the genre as well. Like, you think thrillers, like, obviously sound design is probably one of the biggest things in a thriller, and it kind of makes or breaks it. Like, I can't help but comparing it to The Invisible Man, and how I really didn't enjoy the sound design in The Invisible Man because they kind of ramped it up too much. But I'm like, obviously you can choose your own volume setting at home watching it on Netflix. But I think this did the kind of jump scares a lot better, and there weren't as many jump scares as well, which was good. But yeah, sound design was awesome, and the way that it kind of it brought you into the daughter's point of view, because you could hear silence from John Krasinski's character and Emma Blunt's character, but when it cut to her, it was silent, which was a really awesome device to be used. One of the things I did stumble upon was a tweet from Stephen King, who is obviously the master of horror. He said, "A Quiet Place is an extraordinary piece of work, terrific acting, but the main thing is the silence and how it makes the camera's eyes open wide in a way few movies manage," which I thought was a really awesome kind of sentiment to just put it together. Because looking at the film, like it's kind of that classic thriller movie where the budget isn't massive and the cast, like there's only like maybe 7 people in the whole film. So it's not massive, but it's really brought together by the sound, which totally agree. If I had to pick something else, I agree with the both of you. I think all of the actors did well. And to point out, I think her name's Millicent Simmons, which is the daughter. So she's actually deaf in real life. So I thought it was really awesome that they got someone who was in fact deaf in real life to play this character. I thought that was really cool, and they did, like, obviously I didn't notice it, but John Krasinski was kind of specific about, he wanted to make sure that all of the sign language and everything they were using was proper sign language and stuff like that. And Millicent actually kind of helped John Krasinski out in some of that. So I thought that was really cool, bringing someone in that obviously couldn't go for a generic role because of her hearing ability. So that would have been probably my best. That, and I mean, the cinematography was awesome as well, right? Like, it looked fantastic. Yeah. All that corn and everything. I don't know where they got that, but it's not at like a normal cornfield, because like in the middle of a forest. I don't know if that's where cornfields grow. I'm assuming it's like big farms normally, but yeah.
Mainly the middle of the city. Mainly dead center of City Square.
I thought so, yeah. Just out the back of a cinema. That's where they,
Yeah. Oh, I thought it was like the third floor of most buildings.
Yeah, always third floor.
Yeah.
Or in this podcast, because so freaking corny. All right. Let's move on into things we didn't like. Cane Dogs, you want to kick us off again? What was it that didn't do it for you?
Sure. So I guess I've got a few to list. Mate, you guys are almost better off going first, so I don't take either of yours, because I guess I'm going to have a lot more to say than you guys are, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So potentially, because otherwise I'll listen and you'll be like, that was the only one I could think of.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. I'll go first. I think there were a few kind of plot points that were put in there that didn't really make sense. Like, I understand you have to suspend your disbelief a bit in these kind of films. Like, obviously they're sound hearing aliens, so you have to kind of disregard your reality in a bit. But I think the main thing that kind of stuck out for me, pun intended, was the nail. Why is there a nail sticking up on a stairwell and in the first place? And it was just a bit too what's the word I'm looking for? It was contrived. It was the only reason it was there was to cause drama, and I don't think it necessarily did a lot there, besides just another thing that they had to deal with.
It's also, with that nail specifically, it's there and then it isn't. Like, it's there for the mother to step on, but then later several characters go up and down those stairs, both concentrating and not concentrating, and it's never addressed.
And it's and
there's specifically sand where you have to step, so they all should have stepped on that nail. It's sort of like it's there and then it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was just a bit too convenient to have that nail there, just to kind of put the plot forward and everything. And like I do, like, obviously first time I first time I watched it, there was a bit of suspense, because I was like, oh, how many people are going to step on that nail? But after you've seen it once, I guess you kind of lose interest. And I guess that's the other thing, is once you know what the plot line is and what the story is and who dies and who survives and everything, you kind of, I guess this movie loses a bit of that kind of wonder and intrigue. I ended up...
That's what it is for me.
Yeah, I ended up watching it a second time around, and second time around I was like, okay, so, there's this plot point, and then we'll wait to get to the next plot point and everything. Like, I could still appreciate it visually and like with the sound design and everything, but for the most part, the magic was gone because I'd known it already.
Yeah, and the thing is, as I said at the beginning, this film came out 2 years ago. Between now and 2 years ago, and this film being objectively, in most people's opinion, and not necessarily not mine, but a good movie, it got talked about a lot. So I knew the characters that died. I knew the child died at the beginning because of the toy. I knew the wife was going to give birth while there was a monster there. I knew there was a nail. I knew I knew John Krasinski was going to die. I knew all of these things were already going to happen. I knew that they were going to defeat it with the sound at the end. So because of that, I was really just waiting to get to each plot point.
Yeah.
It sounds like the movie was ruined in its entirety for you.
Yeah, essentially. So I don't consider this a bad movie. I think it's a great movie, but I think none
Your
of it was all
experience
that
was ruined.
fun for me.
Yeah. B-Man, what was the worst part of the film for you?
Yeah, in a similar vein, some little things that are just like, okay. You know, like sinking into the corn over and over again. And and the kind of hearing aid feedback thing that I don't understand.
Yeah.
Those are the two main things for me. There's kind of things where I'm just like, okay, we don't really need this.
It's that kind of thing. Like you've got to take it with a grain of salt. I was reading a few reviews, and there was this guy who was just like, "Oh, actually, the cochlear implant doesn't actually make sound; it creates vibrations." So, and it's like, yeah, like if you wanted to,
all
you probably
sound is vibrations. So that
What a nitpicking, arrogant son of a bitch!
Who does that?
It's just one of those things. Just like me. Yeah, I don't really understand how it works, but they are aliens, so who knows? I guess that can just be explained away by that. But especially with the grain bit, I just didn't like that one kid falls into the grain and he starts sinking. Second kid jumps into the grain to help him, she starts sinking. Then they both pull themselves out. Then the monster comes in. Then they both jump in and cover themselves. And it was just like one of those things where it's just like, you could have just had the first kid sink, the second kid jump in, which makes a lot of noise. And then the monster comes. Like you need to have the second kid sink into the corn and then get pulled out with the first.
They could have the Titanic theme where Jack sinks into the water and just cut the movie there.
Yeah, I also think that maybe that it would have been better if that monster had sunk into the corn, because the monster doesn't really sink, even though it's pretty much got like skewers for legs, right? Like if anything was going to sink, it would be that kind of a monster, but it just kind of jumps out, and you're like, that it kind of makes it a little bit like it's like created with helium or something. I don't know. Agree. While we're on the monsters, I think another thing that I guess disliked, and it's not just this movie, it's like a lot of movies in this genre.
You see the monster too early?
In particular. Yeah, you see the monster way too early. And even if it like I think the opening scene is impactful. Like losing the kid right at the start is super impactful. I think it would have been better if it was just a blur against the screen and the kid's gone, and you just have to assume that the monster obviously got to it without actually seeing the monster kind of scoop it up and run away. Like I think it's a lot scarier, and it's a lot more of a quote unquote thriller if you don't know, and it's your imagination creating the monster, because inevitably your imagination is going to create something more scarier than anyone could ever put on screen.
Well,
as always,
touching on the monsters, before I get to my main negatives, I didn't like the monsters, I guess, for two reasons. One, I didn't like that they're like a video game where it's like, oh, if you play some sound, the head opens up and then there's a red bit that you can shoot. I don't know. That's not new in any way. I just didn't like that. It's like, oh, it opens up a weak spot that you can shoot. I just found that kind of boring. But the thing that I found the worst about the monsters is they're just big grey humanoid things. And I'm so sick of people being like, this is a monster movie, where the main interest, or at least not the main interest of the film, but if your antagonist, it's like it's a monster film, then the monster needs to be interesting for me. And I'm so sick of, in so many films, for whatever reason, it's just this grey or brown, like really dark brown CGI
blob
humanoid. It's like a DC villain of every movie.
Yeah, for sure. I guess you can compare it to, was it Birdcage? Is it Birdcage, the one with Sandra Bullock, where
Bird Box,
the Bird Box, yeah, where if you look at the monster, you practically die, so you never actually see the monster, and it's that kind of scariness that I enjoyed, which I guess this movie probably could have seen a bit.
Or the less you see, like that's the classic
exactly
thing for everything. Like the Predator does that really well in the first Predator movie. You don't see the Predator till the last 20 minutes.
Yeah,
it's like a 2.5 hour movie.
I think the golden standard with all of this is Alien, the very first Alien film. It's like perfect amount of seeing the monster, really, really interesting visuals for the monster, and there's really,
practical
really
effects
freaky
as well.
personal story. Yeah.
practical effects for me makes the monster feel far more real.
Yeah, totally agree. I think this movie doesn't really lean on the monsters as heavily as some other movies do, which is good. I mean, there's a storyline in this one. Like it's very much a kind of family piece, right? Which
exactly.
Which is it gives the movie some substance other than there's big scary monsters coming to attack you.
Makes it very relatable as well.
And yeah, exactly. Like, and they obviously do go through like some heartbreak with their child, being killed early on. Like that obviously has some ramifications, and it's pretty much there for the entire movie. Is they're always kind of constantly thinking about that one thing. I guess it's interesting talking about this, and I guess Cane Dogs, you and I had the idea of like, well, once you've seen it, once you know the story, it's kind of lost a bit. What are we kind of anticipating for Quiet Place 2? Is it going to be this?
My main negatives, but I'm not sure what I want out of A Quiet Place 2, because I don't see them being able to do much more. Like, from what I can tell with the trailer, the route they're going is dealing more with the rest of civilization that's still around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it looks to be a lot about, like, who else is out there? Are they good people or are they bad people? But I'm not sure if I'm going to be too interested with that, having seen a lot of that done both well and poorly in things like The Walking Dead and other things like that. There's so many, like The Book of Eli, there's so many post-apocalyptic films where it's just like, oh, the people that are left, they're cannibals, or they try to rob you, or like, that's interesting, but they're going to need to find a way to do it that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
For me to find
totally
it
agree.
interesting. And the other thing that I'm worried they're going to do is be like, oh, she knows that noise kills them, so she's going to find a town, she's going to show the town how to kill the monsters, and then we're going to have this big battle at the end, like Zombieland 2 or something, and it'll be weird and not... They'll try to go too big for a film like this, whereas a film like this will do really well if they keep it small. If they try to make it too big and they introduce a bunch of characters and there's like, we're gonna defeat all of the monsters and save the planet type deal, like Independence Day, I'm not going to be a fan at all.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think the charm of this one is that it's very, very small, very contained, and judging from what we've got from the trailers, I doubt that it's gonna go down as well, because I think it's just a Hollywood thing that, the sequel, it just has to be bigger and better, and normally it's bigger, but it's never really better.
I would prefer... Sorry.
Broadman, do you have anything you want to add? Quiet Place 2? Thoughts?
I've seen the first one 3 times, and I've enjoyed it every single time. Because it wasn't spoiled for me before I saw it, I can still enjoy it very much. Whereas I never ever want to watch The Sixth Sense because I know
exactly
spoilers for that film.
And that's why I didn't want to watch this film.
Yeah, I completely understand. So for the second one, I really hope that they subvert our expectations by making us think it's going to be that sort of thing where they're dealing with other people, and then it ends up being not that, and it's them, still trying to, do whatever they need to do in their individual story. Because this story is very much about a family who's trying to protect their newborn child, pretty much. In this sort of world. So I hope that this film is going to be something like that, where it's like a family trying to make it to a town safely, or something along those lines, in the context of the monsters being in the world, rather than... I think what I'd prefer out of a sequel, and looking at the trailer, I already know this isn't going to happen. This is just, I think, what I would have liked to see. If someone had said, all right, they're making another one now based on this concept, I would have said, cool, give me the same universe, the same world where these monsters exist and sound and all that. Characters.
Give me completely different characters. Give me different characters in a different scenario, and just tell short stories. I would have preferred, instead of being like, all right, well, now this has happened, let's see what the mother's going to do next. And this time she's got 2 kids and a baby, and she's got a... I don't, like... Her arc is as interesting as it was going to get when she was standing on a nail about to give birth and her kids had to say, like, there's nothing that's going to seem more interesting to me or more dire consequences than that outside of her death. Instead of giving me another movie where she's the main character, because anything she comes up against just isn't going to feel as dire as that scenario, give me a completely different set of characters just in this world.
Yeah, sweet. Cane Dogs, is there anything you said you wanted to get to something just before we finished off?
I think the biggest problem that I had with this film, and as we've discussed, like when you know what's going to happen, it loses a lot of its intrigue unless you have memories of how enjoyable it was first time around. I think in a cinema, this film would have been incredible. Movie night, not so much. It's weirdly quiet. Like obviously that's the aim, but it's not like it's hard to sit there with like a bag of chips cuddled up in bed because any crunch is like sort of that. But I think the biggest problem I had with it is once I knew what was happening, I couldn't help but just notice all the little plot holes and things like that. Or just like little things that happened or things that didn't add up. For example, there's a scene where the monster's in like a cornfield and the monster can't hear anything because although cornfields are generally quiet, if you're listening intently to it, the noise of crickets and things or the corn can be overpowering. But to that concept, any monster anywhere should basically be deafened just by any surrounding noise. So it just
people that try and record a podcast know that, you know, the refrigerator can set you off. So
yeah, it's just this concept of like if these monsters can hear things to such a there's a point where they're all in the room together and there's TVs with static on and all it can hear is the static because although the static isn't that loud, it's really loud to that monster and it doesn't hear the heartbeats or anything else happening. And I was just thinking, like, if everything is that loud to these monsters all the time, there's no way they can hear anything happen 30, 40, 50, 100 meters away, regardless of what it is, right? It's just like either there is a monster 5 meters away from everything all the time, which, like, seemingly there isn't, or they're changing the rules about the monsters as they go, which is fine, but I couldn't, like, these are plot holes that I wouldn't notice.
They do very clearly say that any noise is fine as long as there's a louder noise that covers that noise.
Yeah, and that's fine.
But as long as there's no loud noise. So, like, they would be focusing on all those small, tiny little things, which is probably why you can't hear any birds, because any time a bird would have chirped, the monsters would have gone after them. But then...
I get that.
Like, as soon as any loud noise, like the kid with the toy, then that would be the only noise they could hear and would go immediately after that.
I feel like they'd only hear it, though, if they were within a certain proximity to that, though. Because otherwise, the noises that they're closer to will be louder. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there has to be a monster everywhere all the time. Or, like, they get the little... At the beginning, there's... What are they? They're not squirrels. They're...
Raccoons.
Little raccoons, yeah thanks. Yeah. They're not that loud. The raccoons are quiet. They're pretty... There's, like, a little thumpering on a tin roof, but not really anything. And then they're just rummaging along the ground, and then they get destroyed. It's like, unless a monster was right next to them already. But again, my biggest problem isn't that that's a plot hole. My biggest problem is that I was disengaged in this movie enough to overthink them.
Yeah.
Which is my biggest problem. Like, I could argue and be wrong, or I could argue and be right, but the problem is usually if this film was more enjoyable to me, I wouldn't care. Like, I'm the first person to admit that in the Batman The Dark Knight Rises, I have no idea how no one else has thought of getting out of that just generic hole in the ground. Pretty easy, but it's a good enough movie for me to not think too hard about it.
But you also saw that film without getting anything spoiled for you at all for the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, sweet. I think we might wrap that up there, gents. Good podcast in ISO. Well done. Hopefully it sounds all right. Yeah, ISO, isolation.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, make sure you hit us up on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. Let us know if you have any ideas. Boys, I do actually have... I would actually like to end this episode, if I can find it. We did get a message from...
With the dance-off. Brody, you first.
With a dance-off.
They're already off, mate.
We did actually get a message from... to one of our pages from a certain someone. Cane Dogs, you probably will know them. So we got someone that wrote into our Facebook account. This is from J-Bam, who Cane Dogs, I believe you were in cahoots with back in 2019, last year.
Yeah, we did. He has a podcast with a couple of his acquaintances called the Dirty Harry Minute, where they've reviewed every minute succinctly of the movie Dirty Harry. And I appeared on some of those podcasts. Awesome podcast. I advise you to check out every episode that I'm not in.
definitely check out the ones that Kane Dogs is in as well. So anyway, J-Bam says to us, if you're all three within an hour of each other and vaguely looking at the same piece of sky, why not do an episode where you all look up at the clouds on a clear day and, Rorschach style, talk about what movies / characters they remind you of?
That'd be great if it weren't that I live in Macedon where it's overcast all the time. Every cloud reminds me of a bigger cloud.
Very Rorschach of you.
But yeah, Rorschach, the character from Watchmen.
I did love that idea. I think that's a bit of fun, and not that I'm not sure if it'll actually happen because we are quite a while away, and not sure if we can make a whole podcast out of it. But love the idea. Keep sending them in. If you guys have got ideas for what we can do during this isolation where we can't see new movies, definitely send them in.
What I like about that suggestion is no one has any way of knowing if we're looking at cloud. Like, we could record it at 2 a.m. and just say, "Ooh, I see the character from Power Rangers," or anything.
You could just be in the bar.
Know any different. Unless they're looking at the clouds at the same time we're saying it, we could do or say anything.
A little peek behind the curtains. That's Jordan kind of just saying that he prefers to put in absolutely no commitment to any of your ideas.
This is, unless you PM me actually, I can't say that because he has PM'd me directly many times. Look.
Awesome. All right, we'll leave that there. We've gone over time already. Thanks for sending in your suggestions, guys. Send in suggestions for what movie you want us to review next, and stay tuned on our social medias. We'll let you know what's happening. Cool. Thanks, boys. I'll see you / hear from you next week.
All right. Or will you? I don't know. I've got a pretty questionable cough. I could be dead by then. We'll see.
All right. I'll see you next week, bro.
All right. See you next week, Angus.